and this is Outside the Box. Standing by to join me is theater artist Mark Salyer, talking about the groundbreaking initiative that he has going on. And he is part of NewStages right here in LA, and he's introducing Stepping Stones in honor of Pride Month. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about our fun project.
How did it come about? Let's start there.
Well, NewStages is a company that I had sort of been a part of putting together 10 years ago. We were originally a part of StageBridge, which is one of the country's oldest and largest senior theater companies. But our focus was always a little more geared towards the LGBTQ community. We've done a lot of stuff at the LA LGBT Center. And each year we've done a Pride performance, usually based on the narratives, the personal narratives of the seniors in our program. And they range in age from like 65 to 95. So they really have had remarkable, amazing lives and have been able to see the trajectory of like gay liberation happen from like nothing to gay marriage, which is kind of a humongous leap to have happen in a lifetime. This year, in our project, which is sponsored each year by the City of West Hollywood, we're usually a part of their Pride Arts Festival. And they, I don't know, it struck me that through COVID, we were having to do a lot more things online, obviously. And in doing so, we were involving a lot of young artists and filmmakers and editors and musicians, all these different people to kind of try to get the sort of more video media part of it working so that the online part of it could be really interesting and engaging. And I loved the relationships that kept forming between the artists in our program and these young people. And everyone always came away from it feeling really good about the sort of relationship that we had actually established. Amazing. So this year I decided to really just make it an intergenerational project. And really, I wasn't sure where to eat, like what parameters there were. At first it was like, oh, it could just be like really young artists, or it could be like 20-year-olds or 30 or like, but at the end of the day, it all worked out beautifully. The right people came together to do the right projects.
Sure.
And it really, really was special. I mean, we've had so much great feedback about the three pieces that we released during Pride Month and we had so much interest that we've decided we're just going to continue it every month. We're going to try to do a new piece that pairs an LGBTQ senior artist in whatever capacity with a young person and to see kind of what they can come up with.
It's so interesting. I call this the grandparent effect because, a lot of people, including myself, like I wasn't close to my mom, but my grandmother, she was amazing. She used to walk around her apartment with a hat made out of the newspaper, like a sailor hat. She was so creative and artsy and out there, and I just loved it. And there is a certain bond with an older generation that you don't necessarily have sometimes with a parent.
Absolutely. And yeah, because part of it is that you sort of skip that by skipping a generation or two, you're actually getting acquainted with someone who has a very different history than you. And that can be fascinating. It can be a learning experience for both people, for both parties. But it can also really be sort of spiritually rewarding to sit down with someone who is different from you, who has a completely different background, and to find those sort of common grounds, to find those moments where we intersect, where our lives intersect, and our wants intersect.
Yes.
That's really interesting as well.
Yes.
We had a great piece this year by a young filmmaker named Connor Wharton, and her partner in it was Vicky Pacifico, who's 90. Vicky's 90, Connor's 23. And the two of them worked together on a short film that they called Connor and Vicky Get Along. And it's very sweet and very genuine. And they talk about dating, and they talk about self-esteem, and they talk about all of these different issues that in both cases, like things are coming, they're coming at it from a completely different story.
Yes.
Yet they find these kind of
Common
yeah,
threads.
yeah, these intersections, which I
Yeah.
think is what makes it interesting.
Is Vicky dating?
Well, Vicky, there's a great part in the movie. I will definitely send you the link to it, but
I know I don't want you to do spoiler alerts.
yes, no, it's not at all. But
Okay.
there's a great moment in the movie where Vicky says, I finally feel like I'm ready to date. And she's 90.
Oh, she's
I mean,
90.
I mean, she had many, lovers throughout her early life, but her story is that she got sober. And after she got sober, she really just focused on herself. And she said, no, I think I'm finally ready today. I was like, great, go for it.
I love that.
I know. It's kind of sweet. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have our own, like, dating site for my LGBTQ.
I know you have to think of what you'd call it.
I know.
It's a good lesson, Mark, for people that are in their 50s and 60s and saying, oh, I'm too old to date, or I don't know, or because there's a phrase I learned in my fellowship I was telling you about. I was Age Boom Academy Fellow with Columbia Journalism and the Robert M. Butler Foundation. And we kept hearing human capital. Older adults are human capital. And I had never really heard that phrase. And it really resonated because they are. I mean, they might not understand what a 20-something-year-old is going through, but they have so much wisdom and so much experience to offer.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting for me and my sort of world of starting to work with older persons. I had a very similar thing. I was very close to my grandparents, and they could tell me a story a million times and it was never enough. I was ready to just listen again. And I always had this, I always felt like I was getting something. I was getting some kind of, wisdom's a good word for it, from them that I wasn't able to really get in my life outside of them.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I now do programming for a lot of different organizations. In fact, I just started a few months ago programming for a wonderful senior living place called Belmont Village in Westwood. And Belmont has, we have people who are 80 years old, and we have someone here who's 106. Like,
wow.
It's unbelievable.
106.
Yeah. And their stories, we have two gentlemen who survived the Holocaust. We have people who just have so much to offer. We have a 7-term congresswoman. And so I have brought a lot of my kind of personal narrative stuff to here as well. While, we have tons of different activities and lectures and all sorts of things that I bring in every month, I'm also really trying to cultivate, what's your story, and let's get it on camera, let's get it on film.
Definitely.
And as we do, trust me, you're gonna be imparting wisdom to people who really need it, and who will, and the generations that come after you in your own family are going to be so happy that you put some of this information and some of your essence, on camera.
Yes. It's interesting you say this. I feel that in the pandemic, a lot more people have tuned into, let me record my grandparents' voice or my parents' voice, or let me capture that. I feel like a lot of people have tuned into how fragile life is.
You're right. And with older people too, I feel like of all of the different groups of people, we all really went through something harrowing, and we all have a little PTSD, but for them, as one of them said to me one time, I feel like I lost 2 years and I don't have that many years left.
Yeah. It
was kind of, I bowled over at that, because the idea of where that might put you emotionally and in every aspect. If you're isolated and you're more isolated than you were before because of COVID, that in and of itself is, it's proven. It's like,
it's detrimental.
It's not just your psychological health, but it's also your physical health that really it gets affected.
Yes.
And we saw that a lot with a lot of different folks who had to be more isolated. There was a lot of some of their health deteriorated because they weren't able to
socialize.
yeah, and to have that thing that kind of keeps you alive, human
Yes.
connection and getting together, and even if it's just playing cards,
Right. No,
uh,
we need human connection,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And I'm happy that in New Stages we were able to teach everybody enough about Zoom and different ways of connecting to
Yeah.
where, their lives, I think, were changed, or at least some of them were. Some people still had a lot of stumbling blocks with the technology, but another person, Vicky, like I mentioned earlier, Vicky, I'll call her up and say, Vicky, how you doing? She's like, I can't talk. I'm in my Zoom tap class. And like every day is like a different, she's like, I'm in chair yoga. Don't call. Don't call during this time. It's chair yoga. And so she sits in front of the computer, but she's in a room, a
I
Zoom room with
love
a bunch of
this.
different faces, and everybody's doing their thing.
We need to
Um,
live like Vicky.
I know. Well,
Really,
it is fascinating. I mean, she's 90. She lives alone. She's able to really she's structured her life in such a way that she's very active. She has a lot of friends, a lot of,
Mhm.
lunch dates are the big one for her.
Mhm.
She's a really wonderful person. In fact, about 5 years ago, she came to me when she was 85 and said, can I do a one woman show about my life? Will you help me write it? I said,
Oh,
sure. So then she did it. We wrote it. She put it up. It was performed in Los Angeles. It was absolutely stunning.
is it on YouTube?
I don't think it's on YouTube, but I think I do have a video copy. I'll have to send it
Oh,
to you.
I would love to see that.
It's really special. So many stories, so many stories from her life growing up in Brooklyn in the 40s.
Amazing.
Um,
It
yeah.
affects your health. I mean, there's so much research out there. We tried to keep older people safe, so we isolated them from COVID, but
Yes.
it's detrimental to their health.
Yeah. It was a really, really, I keep saying, I feel like it was hardest on them and hardest on young kids
Hmm.
who were
Oh, yeah.
used to their socialization of school,
Right.
and that was tough too, I think, for them. But again, I'm happy that we continued it, and from it came this whole other idea that has actually been really wonderful and successful. I mean, this intergenerational concept of sort of combining, artists. So we have, in the pieces that we did for Pride Month so far, we have the short film by Vicky and Connor.
Okay.
We have a wonderful piece by an actor and writer named Dale Madison, and his partner, Dakota, who is a young um, animator. And basically, Dale had this wonderful story called "The Boy Who Played with Dolls," and Dakota went through and did all of the illustrations and began the sort of animation process of putting that piece together. And it is just heartwarming.
Amazing.
And then our other piece that we've released so far is a really wonderful actor and dancer that we have in the program named Lauren Peterson, and her collaboration with her son, who is a young filmmaker, and a young composer named Shi Wei. And Shi Wei composed music, and Lauren did this sort of spoken word thing, and then they kind of put it together from like a film standpoint.
Outstanding.
I know, it was really, I mean, we were everything about since COVID is a surprise. We don't know what it's going to end up being. We're like, oh well, let's
Exactly.
just try it,
Exactly.
and then there's always like some magical, wonderful thing that comes from it because we put the effort in.
And I feel that maybe people that don't normally do this kind of thing are pushing themselves, giving a little nudge,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. I
If
think
not
that
now, when? Why not do it now?
yeah.
Yeah.
And for our stuff in the past, which has always been in live performance, that takes a certain degree of courage that maybe that you don't need to say, oh yeah, well, I'll give you my, illustrations, or what I mean? Like there's a
Right.
very different, they're very different concepts. So you're right, like media opened it up a little bit to some people who maybe wouldn't have actually participated, which I think is
Yes.
kind of interesting.
Yeah. Amazing. What else would you like us to know about it?
Well, we are again starting, we're continuing it throughout the course of the year. We have a couple of other pieces in the works. But I want to just continue, and I want to get the word out. If there are artists out there who have an interesting story or feel really inspired, I feel like this was almost like the people who came to the table with a great idea, and this one, it was almost like a calling.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, wait a minute, I think this would be amazing,
Mhm.
And so that's really kind of what we're looking for, and we're hoping to again continue it throughout the year. And then what I would love to do is to take all of the pieces and and do a little bit of post-production finesse and make them into a documentary type piece that we can actually send to festivals, because I feel like there's a lot there that's very valuable. And having been through the film festival circuits many times, I feel like this is a group of people that you probably don't see a lot of.
Yes.
And especially this connecting point of
right.
a younger.
Please do that.
Yes. Yeah, we want to.
You've got to do that.
Yeah, because I feel like we already have 30 minutes of programming,
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be an hour and a half.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We end up with 60 minutes. I still think it's a great thing. And all they need are just the sort of post-production stuff we all have to do anyway. It's
Right.
not like
Exactly.
it's not like it's brain surgery to just finesse it and give it the polish that we want for a film. So we're gonna see. I really have been very encouraged with what we have so far.
Amazing. Well, as I said earlier, I would love to see if you'd be part of the, wellness and creative arts series I've launched. I'd love it to be intergenerational. We can come up with something if you're interested.
I would love it. I would love it. I have seen the power of creativity in how it changes lives, and it builds community. Getting people involved in the creative process sort of changes the way the brain works a little bit, I think.
Yes.
I'm certainly not a neuroscientist, but I will tell you that I can see the excitement and the energy that happens when you get a bunch of people together and you start creating something.
Yes.
No matter who those people are. And certainly with older people, particularly, that's life. That's what keeps you alive.
A sense of hope, a sense of purpose, positivity, optimism, everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's been a wonderful ride with all of these folks. And again, I'm very happy to be doing some of the same type of programming in some other venues. I did some things last year for Jewish Family Services, and I think we're going to continue those projects. And now with the senior living place, which is going to be really fun. It's a wild and it's almost like a microcosm, of the world on every level. But we've done wonderful things. Another thought that I had, which was interesting, and this might be something you and I can talk about too, is I feel like they love lectures here, especially at this particular space. They love people to come and talk to them about stuff and get their brains working. They like to talk about and discuss and have questions. And everything that we've had screenings of documentaries and brought in the filmmakers, and we've done all sorts of different projects like that. But it'd be great to have you come at some point and talk about your project and talk about some of the things you learned through your fellowship and how creativity really does make a difference in terms of our mental health.
Definitely.
Incredible.
I'll share a quick thing with you. So I gave my first book talk. I wrote this book I don't know if I told you this. I wrote this book 2019, Get the Funk Out. Thank you. Bleep happens, what to do next. You can fill in whatever you want bleep to be. And I gave my first in-person book talk a couple weeks ago to a group here in Orange County. And I asked them, because I was talking about self-care and resilience, and I asked them, so how are you? And I just let that settle in. And it was like you open the floodgates because people want to talk. And I found that on other talks I give, people want to share. And some people choked back. They were going to cry. And that's understandable. And there's been so much that we've experienced, loss and not being able to see loved ones. And, in my book, I talk, there's COVID divorce, COVID abuse, COVID this, COVID that, on and on and on. Right. And I love connecting with people and giving them a chance to just express themselves,
Yes, yes.
you know?
I totally am with you. I had one group I was working with at in North Hollywood, the NoHo Senior Arts Colony, which is a great, interesting senior living place that has a lot of activities, a lot of engagement. And I was teaching a class, supposed to be an acting class, but and during COVID, of course, the first 30 minutes just became talking. We just needed to talk. And then we
Yes.
started just going through so many different moments
Hmm.
in their collective history, which was really fun, but also in their individual history. My favorite question that I asked someone, and it actually led to a beautiful piece that they created, was, "It's 1971. It's spring. What do you have on?" And it was surprising how at first everybody had, they were struggling with details and whatever, but then suddenly the details came into play because we all have that favorite thing that we
Yes.
favorite outfit, the thing that made us feel
Yeah.
like, ugh. And suddenly there were like 8 wonderful stories about that outfit and something that happened during that time period, and stories that took us all around the world, and it was
I love
kind
that
of,
question.
it was a goofy question. I don't even know what came to me. I was just like, hmm. And so now I've decided, like everything I ever do, I'm always going to say, what were you wearing? What were you wearing?
That is funny. Very funny. Where can people find out more about you?
So you can see all of our Pride performances and learn more about New Stages at our website, which is newstages.org. And I think when you see the pieces that are on there, we actually have last year's Pride performances as well on that site, so you can actually take a look at everything that we've been up to for the last couple of years, really. But
Great.
when you see the intergenerational pieces, I think people will see, oh, this is special. This is a good idea, and I think it's important, and the people really seem to be loving it. And
Yeah.
so yes, newstages.org.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you. Always so much fun. You're awesome.